Hi guys, it's your girl Duana here with another sew along, but this time for my Justina dress pattern. So this pattern has three versions. You have a crop top, you have a midi dress, and you have a maxi dress version. That's incredible. So there's so much variety here. Another thing that I really love about this pattern is the ruffle sleeve. It's so cute and really ruffly. And that's what I love. I love a lot of ruffles. Also has a low V-neck back, and I love V-necks. I just love open back. I just love showing my back. Come on now, girl loves her back, okay? This is such a cute pattern. It makes a beautiful sundress. You can wear it with, your sun hat. You can go out to the park. I just love it. I think it's so cute. Another thing about this pattern is it has pleats at the waist. And you don't even have to add the pleats if you don't want to, but I like to add the pleats just to accentuate the waist, and that's something that is completely optional if you don't want to. But I absolutely loved it. I think it added a little extra flair to it. And it also has pockets, guys. The pattern has pockets. You don't even need to carry a purse if you don't want to. You can just put it in your pockets. So without further ado, here is the sew along for my Justina dress pattern. All right, so for materials, you're gonna need your fabric, some fusible interfacing, single fold bias tape, as well as snaps or buttons, and I chose to use snaps. All right, so for the pattern pieces, we have pattern piece number 1. All right, this is the front bodice, and you're going to cut 2 of fabric. This is pattern piece number 2. This is the side front bodice, and you're going to cut 2 of fabric. All right, this is pattern piece number 3, the side back bodice, and you're going to cut 2 of fabric. Pattern piece number 4, this is the back bodice, and you're going to cut 2 of fabric. Pattern piece number 5, this is the front facing, and you're going to cut 2 of fabric and 2 of interfacing. Pattern piece number 6, this is the back facing, you're going to cut 2 of fabric and 2 of interfacing. This is pattern piece number 7, this is the sleeve ruffle, and you're going to cut 2 on the fold. This is pattern piece number 8, this is the pocket, and you're going to cut 4 of fabric. All right, so let's get started. First, you're going to grab pattern piece number 1, which is the front bodice, and you're going to also grab pattern piece number 2, which is the side bodice, and you're going to pin those right sides facing. Because this is the maxi version, of course, there's going to be a lot of pinning. And once you're done, you're going to go ahead and stitch those together. And you should have 2 sides. This is your left and right side. All right, and so we're going to put this aside for now, and we're going to go ahead and grab our back pieces. All right, so you're going to grab your pattern piece number 3 and 4, and you're going to pin those together, right sides facing. And when you're done pinning, you can go ahead and stitch all the way down. All right, so now you're going to take both your back pieces and matching notches. You're going to go ahead and pin those together and then stitch. All right, so now we're going to add pockets. You may notice there are markings on the other side. Make sure that you have those markings before you do anything. And so now we're going to take a look at the pockets. You should have 4 pocket pieces, and to add the pockets, you want to place the right sides together with the pocket curve facing downwards. Match up the pockets and the notches and leave the side seam between the circle point where it joins the pocket unpinned. So make sure you're adding the pockets to the side front bodice and the side back bodice sections. And I'm not gonna lie, I do not always like adding pockets, but I never regret adding them. So the pockets is a slightly tedious task. It's not a lot, but it can be tedious. But once I am done and I'm wearing a dress with pockets, it makes all the difference, and it is so worth it. With right sides together, make sure that the pockets are matching. And then you're going to go ahead and pin the sides of the garment, making sure that you're going all the way around the pocket and all the way to the bottom of the garment. You're going to go ahead and do that to the other side as well, and then stitch them together. You also want to make sure that your seam allowances are facing away from the bodice. All right, so now you're going to pin the shoulder seams together. Make sure you're also pressing your seams open as you go. You never want to wait until the last second to do that. Once you're done pinning, go ahead and stitch the shoulder seams together. Okay, so now we're going to get into the fun part. We're going to go ahead and do our waist pleats. You can do the facing first. It really doesn't matter, but I'm going to do the waist pleats first. Make sure that you make any waist pleat markings before you move forward. On the wrong side of the fabric, you want to bring the fold line to the placement line, matching the circle markings and lines. Okay, so you're going to go ahead and do all of those. And so once you're done pinning all of the waist pleats, we're going to go ahead and take this to the sewing machine. You want to make sure that you're back stitching on both ends. That way the pleats don't open up. I think that the waist pleats are so flattering. Just take a look at that. It's probably difficult to see with the print, but take a look at the waist pleats, how it helps to contour the waist. Don't forget to press your waist pleats towards the center back and the center front. So now we're going to add the facing, but first we're going to do a stay stitch all the way around the neckline and to the bottom. And a lot of times you want to make sure you do a stay stitch when your fabric is not completely stretch free. If there's a slight stretch, you always want to put a stay stitch. I've already added interfacing to my front and back facing. So go ahead and grab your front facing, and I just trimmed away a little bit of the excess interfacing. One other good thing to do is if you have a serger, you can serge around it so that cleans it up. I'm going to start with my back facings with right sides together and matching notches. Go ahead and pin those together and then stitch. And then you can take your front facings and with matching notches to the back facings, you're going to go ahead and pin those together and then stitch. My serger wasn't working at the time, so I ended up using bias tape to seal the ends, but you can also use a zigzag stitch. And now go ahead and grab your facings, and you're going to go ahead and match your facings to your bodice right sides facing. I always like to start at the center back and then match the shoulder seams and then match any corners, and that helps to make sure that everything is lined up appropriately. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and take this to the sewing machine, and I'm going to start at the center back. Once you're done attaching the facing, you can go ahead and understitch the facing. Again, I like to start at the center, but when you're understitching, you're basically bringing the seam allowance to the facing and stitching on top of the facing. I'm going to go ahead and re-add some of my markings because over time, sometimes they wear out and that's okay. You could just redo them. But now I'm going to be adding my sleeves. All right, so first you can go ahead and stitch your flounce pieces together, right sides facing. All right, so go ahead and grab your single fold bias tape and we are going to finish the raw edges of the ruffle sleeve with the single fold bias tape. All right, so you're going to line up one edge of the bias with the edge of the fabric, right sides together. When you get near the end, you can overlap the raw edges of the bias tape. Stitch carefully around the curve. Make sure that you are stitching on the fold line. Once you come close to the end, you can just go ahead and overlap the edges of the bias tape and then trim off any excess pieces. All right, so now you're going to fold the bias on the wrong side of the fabric. Make sure you press it and pin the bias again because you want to make sure that it is flat. There shouldn't be any raw edges visible. And finally, you're just going to stitch the binding to the inside of the ruffle sleeve all the way around. Make sure you're back stitching at the beginning and the end. If you haven't already, you want to make sure that you create 2 rows of long stitches in the inner raw edge of the flounce between the circle markings. Once you do that, you can go ahead and pull those stitches and it will create a slight gather. All right, y'all, so go ahead and grab your garment and we are almost done. With right side spacing, you're going to attach the sleeves to the armhole. Adjust the sleeve to fit the armhole if necessary. All right, so once you're done pinning the ruffles to the garment, you can go ahead and stitch those together. This would be a good time to give the garment a nice press. We are going to add our snaps or buttons. I'm not going to share how to add the snaps, but feel free to check out the description for a video on how to add snaps or buttons to your garment. The great thing about being able to add buttons or snaps is that you can choose the size buttons that you want, the size snaps that you want, the amount of buttons that you want, the amount of snaps that you want, all to your liking. All right, and so last but not least, we are going to hem the dress and then we are done. Okay, so first you want to open out the bottom of the facing and fold up the bottom of the dress by 3/8 of an inch. Then you're going to fold back the facing and stitch 5/8 of an inch across the facing. All right, so fold back over your facing and then fold over that, basically that natural fold to finish off the hem. And then you're going to stitch all the way across the bottom 1/2 inch from the edge. Make sure you are pressing the garment, especially at the hem, because you want to make sure that your hem is nice and flat. And this is what the final garment looks like. This is the front with the snaps. You can see the waist pleats. And then also if you look at the back, we have a deep V back and the waist pleats. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to tag Dwana Studio in your makes.